you need money. And so the body's in trauma, and are you going to send the blood to the heart and lungs, or are you going to send it to the toes? And what we've decided to do is send it to the toes.
And say more about that. And that means what?
The heart and lungs of any economy is the fundamental productivity of your natural resources, your environmental strength, and your people, your intellectual and human capital. And so when you basically do a series of things that destroy your people and your human and intellectual capital and your fundamental productivity, so you don't invest in infrastructure, you don't invest in outstanding education, you don't invest in great clean water and health care and great food, what you have a tremendous deterioration in productivity. You add to that, and the fact that we're aging in this country, and you add to that a huge debt load that we can't afford. And what you're doing is you're fundamentally slamming the productivity in the economy, and it's not an accident. I mean, this is intentional. I've documented again and again what went on in Washington in the 90s, and there was a group of us saying, we need to do these series of things to pay our debt down, to improve our infrastructure, improve our intellectual and human capital, and jump the curve on globalization so that we protect the middle class and we emerge as productive as ever, because America has tremendous strength still to this day. And those things weren't done. Instead, we decided to bubble the economy and pull capital out in a way that really was very harmful to both human and intellectual capital and our long-term productivity. Now, it's still not too late. There's plenty that can be done, but you start by an honest assessment of the problem. And the reality is we have a leadership which is centralizing economic, political control in a way that's destroying real wealth. It's destroying the muscle in the economy, and this bailout, is the next phase of destroying the real economy to basically finance this centralization in a way that's terribly destructive.
All right, now another sort of idiot question, but forgive me. We are spending massive amounts of money on the war machine,
correct,
on various wars, and expanding those wars. Can that not doesn't that take a huge toll? There's no other way. If you take the money from one place, it goes somewhere else, right?
Well, it's taking a huge toll on total wealth, because worldwide we now have more than $1 trillion a year in expenditures on military. We're moving to a war economy. So yes, you spend a huge amount, but it keeps corporations propped up. And in the game of geopolitics, it keeps the oil price propped up, which helps a whole lot of people, including the United States, in terms of competition with China and the emerging markets in Asia. So we're looking at economic warfare, and if you are a variety of different corporations and banks, it is the way within the geopolitical competition to stay on top. Now, again, it's terribly draining for most people. Again, it's centralizing wealth at the cost of the little guy, whether it's here or in countries around the world. If you think it's tough on us, you should see what it's doing to the average Chinese worker.
You're listening to Flashpoints on Pacifica Radio. We're speaking with Catherine Austin Fitz. She's a regular Wednesday visitor with a special broadcast we call Community Business with Catherine Austin Fitz. She's a former high-level official in the first Bush administration, now an independent visionary investment counselor, and focuses on the way in which local communities can take back their wealth, take back their power. Catherine, this is almost unimaginable in terms of where it is right now and the possibility to reverse it. It seems like the war machine, the war economy, it's going so fast and it's chugging so fast downhill that it seems almost a lost cause.
Well, I think the $64 question, and I don't have access, I don't think most of us have access to the information to know what will really happen. we're looking at a war machine which has been unbelievably effective at creating a global taxation system. So we have countries and investors and people around the world who are buying fraudulent securities from us. They're buying treasury securities and currency that are dropping in value, and we've created this really brilliant financial mechanism that allows us to take to tax. And it's not us, the U.S., it's this financial mechanism. So it allows whoever is running this financial mechanism to tax entities and command market share globally. And just as there's frustration building here in this country against this mechanism, the frustration around the world is off the charts because people do not want to be run by large banks and large corporations. At the root, it's a fundamentally psychotic model, culturally, spiritually, in every other way. And so what you're watching is a huge backlash. And it's building, and as it builds, I believe we're using more economic and legal and financial and military violence to keep it going, because of course the more it goes, then the more we need to tax to keep it going. It's not fundamentally productive. And the $64 question is, is this going to get very, very violent over the next 12 months?
What do you mean violent?
Well, if you look at how much cash the black hole needs, the question is, where is it going to get it? It's going to get it by cutting the Peace Corps. It's going to get it by cutting people all across America in a variety of different ways. It's going to get it by having the dollar falling. It's going to get it by making people around the world, whether it's the Russians or the Chinese or the Middle East, buy more of this and that. And at some point, you're going to see, we've been selling weapons to all these people. And at some point, you're going to cause enough tension that they could start to use them. So I am concerned about the geopolitical nature of this. This is not a domestic problem. It's not just Americans who are being drained by this. This drain is happening all around the world, and it's reaching levels that for many people are unbearable.
You're listening to Flashpoints on Pacifica Radio. We're speaking with Catherine Austin Fitts. We're talking about the $700 billion initial bailout revolving operation in which, when we looked at the S&L scandal, we saw that it was, at the time it was called, the largest movement of wealth, of capital, of resources from the working class and the middle class to the elite class. Well,
right.
They're saying that the S&L scandal was, and you know a lot about this,
was a drop in the bucket.
Was a drop in the bucket. So when they say that 1 in 10 people are now 90 days into arrears on their mortgages?
It's extraordinary, and remember, it hasn't really begun yet. Because when you have a recession, in a normal recession, Dennis, economic activity slows down, people lose their jobs, their income drops, and a cycle or two later, the housing market starts to feel the effects of that. Now, in this case, we had a bubble, I would say a fraudulently induced bubble, and so housing dropped first, causing the economy to slow, and then what's going to happen by next summer is the real drop off in housing is going to start. So we are just at the beginning. We are not anywhere near the end of this cleanup, and the important thing to remember is in 1989, when we went through this the last time, you had a lot of muscle in the American economy. What we've done over the last 10 years is move capital out, strip the infrastructure and a lot of manufacturing and other things. So we've literally moved the machines abroad, and there's a lot less muscle in the economy this time.
And your hope, Catherine, because I know if there is a hopeful human being.
Well, I can't tell you, listening to the radio shows in Florida was so hopeful, because what I heard was people say, no, we are not going to tolerate this. And the amazing thing is, because there is a presidential election, we really do have the ability to stop this bailout. And I think one of the healthiest things that could happen is the message that says no, because what is very important for everyone to understand is we're not watching a bailout. We are watching a financial coup d'etat. And what's important to know is if you crash the global financial system tomorrow, we still have savings. We still have money in the pension funds. We still have money in the banks. We still own land, okay? So there's a lot more that can be stolen. And you give this kind of authority to the people who've been stealing, whether it's the $4 trillion or, the pump and dump of the stock market or Enron, and they can steal what's left in the pension funds. They can steal what's left in the banks. They can steal the land. I mean, if you look at what they did in Russia in the 90s, if you look at what they did in Latin America, people literally woke up and the money in their bank accounts and the money in the pension funds was just gone. It was stolen. So it can happen. I'm not